Hi, I'll kick it off. This is Megan Kosnick from University of Washington. Hello. And I was just wondering if anyone has any use cases who's still on workflow 1.0 where commenting has helped you. And perhaps you're all in 2.0 already. I don't know.
Yeah, and I think it's. Hi, I'm Eric, by the way. Um, I think it's safe to say that it's fairly it's been so recently released that it's pretty new. But I could speak to some conversations that I've been a part of with um, some prospective customers. One happened a couple weeks ago, and they were talking about some processes that they have around um, the initial proposal preparation piece of this, where we have the sharing functionality, and that's good to be able to bring in different editors. But when we were talking through the commenting functionality, they were really drawn to it as a way to collaborate either in part of that pre-proposal phase and capture that conversation there to be reviewed as part of the proposal, or they also considered adding steps in the workflow that aren't necessarily part of their governance process, but specifically designed to be the time and the place to help facilitate that collaboration before it moves on to the more formal steps in the governance process.
We we just got the commenting, and I'm Susan from Boise State, and we had a proposer already attempt to share with the University Curriculum Committee chair. And that was kind of interesting because he's early in the proposal stage, but it was really nice that he could then comment about it and ask the chair to edit it before it ever got to that step in the workflow. So it was really kind of cool. But that's our first instance of it.
Hi everyone, I'm James from UVic. Yeah, we haven't. I've been kind of out of the Kuali picture for a little bit because I'm just in a different role. But I can see that we're still on workflow 1.0. But I can see that commenting for us is going to be pretty awesome. Like before, we'd been using the acknowledge functionality for users to be able to leave comments and things, and that wasn't working very well. It didn't kind of lend itself to a conversation. So I see that this comment feature is going to really allow the kind of collaboration that we were hoping to have, from the get-go. So yeah, excited to kind of have a closer look at that.
Yeah, I'd second that part too. I'm Mike from SNHU. We have people in our workflow who acknowledge we're in workflow 2.0 now as well. But I specifically, when we were releasing the commenting feature, was the last Thursday now, went out and met with the people who are acknowledged in our workflow, because I think that it's a big boost in how effective they can be in their roles, because otherwise they don't have the same amount of say as an actual approver does. But in general, the commenting feature, I think, is a huge benefit for us as an institution through our governance processes, because it's just opening a whole new door of collaboration that we didn't really have before. And if it was happening, it was happening offline and inconsistently. So I think it's going to be a really big boost. I don't know how widely it's been being used yet, because we just had our first curriculum committee since yesterday. So I think we'll kind of see as everyone sets up their norms for how they use it.
Can I ask a question of the group? This is Devin Jensen from the University of Central Florida. So just because you're talking about workflows, one thing that I've been kind of thinking a lot about, we're just kind of in the getting ready to implement this summer for Kuali. The relationship between so you've got shared governance, which is an essential integral element of the curriculum workflows that you have. You have to make sure you adhere to that. Our curriculum committees are an offshoot of a faculty senate committee. So all that are involved in that assist in that process. So one of the things that have been coming up in my role of program's asking me about the difference between curriculum matters that come through that are more administrative in nature, and how the workflow is what they're asking for is adaptations to the workflow as compared to something that is just a curricular matter. So I'll give you a quick example. So you have a course that comes through, so a faculty member wants to propose it, add to the program of study, okay, it goes through the regular workflow. But we've had situations where the dean wants to delete, let's say, 3 classes out of a plan of study. I'll just use real generic example. They want to delete that. And it has to be done because of faculty workload matters, because of cost issues and so forth, right? So what happens if that runs through the regular curriculum workflow and it gets to the college level curriculum committee and they say, no, we don't approve this. And the dean's like, no, I've got to have this go through because of whatever matters that they may be. So I was just wondering if this group has any thoughts in terms of like how you've thought about workflow and maybe how you've used those two kind of dynamics at play within the workflows within quality. So that notion of workflows that may be tied to more administrative types of initiatives as compared to something that is just curricular matter.
Yeah, I can say at SNHU, we have quite a number of flavors to our workflow as far as like routing goes. We do have those more administrative, like non-governance related changes, like if you think of a course capacity. At SNHU, like it's based on the room, so it doesn't have to be approved by the full governance process. So like we do allow for shortened workflows for that stuff too. We also have administrative workflows for our curriculum team, specifically in the registrar's office, if they are just doing administrative work. So they can go in, quickly change things as well. So I'd say like if that's something you need, the workflow is definitely dynamic enough, as long as like your configuration for the forms has that kind of information broken out. Does that help?
Yeah, I was
gonna say you could do denial routes as well. So if they, at the curriculum level, if they denied it, you could have a separate pathway to, like, if denied, you know, maybe there's an override or something by a certain level.
Right.
But we don't manage ours very well through the workflow process. We're doing that more manually. Like if something comes through and we realize this isn't really a curricular change, this is just an administrative thing, there's a spelling error, there's just updating the dean's name or whatever,
Right.
We'll just admin approve it on our end rather than it making it go through the whole workflow.
Mm-hmm. I was also wondering, maybe if anyone else can share some thoughts on this side of the equation, is that one of the things I'm struggling with is that, you know, I've got administrators are asking for this type of workflow, but then I'm sitting there stepping back and saying, but at the same time, the shared governance process is also about the ability to say no. Do you know what I mean? So it's, even though the dean doesn't want them to, you know, wants it to kind of go through, but part of shared governance is allowing a committee of faculty about a curricular matter to say, no, we don't agree with this, rather than just, you know, the dean kind of doing things. And so to me, there's a symbolic message behind that. And it may go through, you know what I mean? The dean may override it and go through, but at least the faculty have that opportunity to have their voice to say, no, we don't approve of this programmatic change or deleting this program or whatever the case may be. And so that's why I'm trying to balance that space, and just, you know, wonder if anyone had any thoughts about maybe how they've experienced that and used it in terms of the workflows within Kuali.
Yeah, that's a fragile thing for sure. And I think that's super dependent on it's going to be different per university on that one. But I think for us at SNU, we have a pretty good shared understanding of what's governance applicable and what's not. As we've had Kuali for years, we've added more and more content to our forms. So that understanding needs to be kept up to date with that too, because some things we add don't need to go through the full governance process. So I don't really know where that conversation starts at your school specifically, but just making sure that all the schools, the academics, and the administration are all on the same page on how that process works in uniform, I guess.
Mm-hmm.
Because I think that's a problem you'd have with any curriculum management software too, you know, it's just an academic issue.
But I do just want to reiterate something that I think that Lindy touched on from University of Utah, is that the denial steps is really, I think, a good fit here, because it can go through that curriculum committee and capture their denial and any comments that are there. But then, you know, if there is a governance path forward, even if they deny, you know, you can route that and capture that full history there, you know, without somebody feeling like they got steamrolled. It's all sort of part of the process there.
Yeah, it's a good point. Thanks, Eric.
Mhm.
Hi, everyone. Oh, I'm hidden. This is Kara, Honolulu Community College again. I have just a hi, Eric. Nice to see you again. Eric's the magic behind all of our changes and all the smart work behind it. So, but I just, oh my gosh, I got so many more new ideas from this whole conference that I've told my colleagues, we just want to plow forward and make the changes because they're so good. I have a very basic question because I haven't used commenting yet. Can you limit if you invite somebody to comment on a proposal? For example, we have been saying that counselors and the STAR programmer, I don't know if everybody knows STAR, but anyway, it has to be programmed, that they would be involved earlier in the process, yet they're not part of our workflow. So I'm seeing that with commenting, we can invite them to be part of the workflow, but we don't necessarily want counselors to be able to go in and change the form. So the proposer should be doing that. Can we limit, even though we invite somebody, can we limit their ability to actually change the form?
Yeah, so there's two kind of options. The first option is just to do commenting without editing. So you can request that someone, you know, send a message to someone and say, hey, come talk to me about this, come help me figure this out, without giving them edit access. So they'll only be able to come in and make comments on the form. And then you can also, if you want to give them temporary edit access, you can say, while it's at my approval step, you can just edit it for a temporary period of time until I approve it. So either one of those options would allow you to kind of limit the amount of edit access a user would have.
Okay, great. And then is there an option for a proposal to come back through the workflow again once you, because I know we did like workaround send back, which now we can get rid of because we have the commenting feature. But if we send it back to the proposer for changes, for example, is it still possible to come back through all the notes so that they're informed?
Yeah, so that would be just regular send back. So you would want to use the send back functionality. And if you use that, you could send it back to the proposer. They can make their edits, and then it will just almost start the workflow over from that point.
Okay, awesome. Thanks.
I just had a quick question. I'm sorry, maybe this is obvious. I haven't had a chance to play around with the comments yet. Can you address your request comments from a particular role or a department, some kind of group, like rather than doing it to a particular individual? I could see I might want to just send it to my associate dean or associate deans across multiple faculties or whatever.
Yeah, right now there's not a way to send comments to a particular role or a particular group. You would have to kind of use, it's like multi-select functionality. So you could select multiple people if you wanted, but that would be something we would need to kind of take back and look to see how we would want to manage that in the application. But that definitely makes sense. You want to do that.
Hannah, I would second that the University of Utah would like to see something about role-specific communications. So across all groups, the associate dean level gets a communication. That would be, or because that's something that at least with our new degree programs that we were trying to figure out a way to accomplish, rather than creating a separate group that is associate deans instead of one that's a department, so that we'd have to maintain two separate lists, one in their department and then one that's this associate dean list. So that's something that we also would really be interested in as well.
Okay, thanks, Cindy. That makes sense.
I have a question comment. We have been using proposal groups very heavily. And we would really like it if they could be attached to the agenda versus the individual proposals. I don't know if that's in the works or on somebody's wish list, but we've found it very, very helpful when it gets to the committee that they have to vote, that they can go into that proposal group and just go right down the line. That's been fabulous in getting them to vote in the meeting and getting it all done, because, you know, they tend to procrastinate, and some of them, you know, say, oh, I'll do it when, you know, I get back to my office, or I'll do it, you know, so it's been very, very good. I also have another question, and this is probably just specific to us, but I've been running reports when we approve courses, and they go into our PeopleSoft system, which is really cool. But occasionally, in the like the requirements or course names, I'm getting the old version of the requirement when there's actually a new one. And I'm getting the old name of a course, but it's been changed for the same semester, you know, that the whole thing was approved for. Any idea what's going on there?
I'm not honestly sure off the top of my head, but I would definitely encourage you to submit a support ticket for that, and we could absolutely take a look at what's going on there. It may be that, you know, there's a different record that's being transformed or something like that. It may be that the cache of the rules needs to be updated in a particular scenario or something like that.
Cool, thank you.
You bet.
I have a question around proposal groups. Is that a new feature? Is it tied to Workflow 2.0? I didn't see that in our system.
No, proposal groups, it's been around for a while. I don't think that every institution has it configured, but essentially it would allow you to kind of group together a list of proposals and watch their progress through the workflow, and then you can kind of take action on them directly from the proposal group form. So if you want, if you're interested, we can send you some information about what it looks like and how it works and that kind of thing to see if that's something that would be helpful.
I would love that. Thank you.
Sure.
And then,
oh, go ahead.
Oh, sorry, Susan, to your question about including proposal groups in the agenda. For those of you that were able to attend our roadmap session a couple of days ago, I talked a bit about a refresh and like kind of the evolution of CM's user experience. So one of those things that we are going to be looking at is that relationship between agenda and proposal groups. So the short answer is we'll be able to solve that same problem. Whether that means you'll exactly have it work the way that it works today, I'm not 100% sure. Sorry, baby with me. But we are going to be looking at kind of the two main problems that proposal groups and agenda are solving. One being, like Hannah mentioned, the ability to group proposals together, especially those proposals that, here you can, hello. Especially those that need to go through the governance process, either lockstep or in some sort of serial fashion. So we'll be looking at how we want to solve that problem. And then the other problem will be how to make it more efficient to create agendas that then users can take action on within the agenda itself. And so there's other things related to agendas that we'll be looking at, things like, sorry, she has croup. That's why she's sitting here with me. So things like being able to create sections within your agenda of specific, you know, like these are gen ed courses that we're looking at in this portion of the meeting, or these are all minor changes and to courses, for example, and these are major changes. So we're going to be looking at all of it, and definitely we'll be reaching out to get additional feedback on that as we get closer to working on it.
I haven't used proposal groups. Sorry, this is Kara from Honolulu Community College again. If we use proposal groups, does it just require one to approve all of them, or do we still have to go into each proposal to approve?
Yeah, you still go into each proposal to approve. That's an interesting question that I'd love to hear from the group about, because we've had a few questions over the years about this concept of bulk approval. And I'm curious to hear just the different perspectives on that, the scenario that, you might use that in, or when you might not want to use that, if that's the case as well.
Yeah, so in our situation, sorry,
No,
really
go
quick.
ahead. Go ahead.
We have the, like, any changes to our English or math curriculum is going to impact a lot of the prerequisites on a lot of the other courses. And so a lot of times in curriculum committee, we don't want to go through each one of those, because usually a proposer just talks about the overarching change, and that it impacts all these other programs and all these other prerequisites. And we usually do a proposal to change each of those. When it impacts other programs, we have to do a proposal for each one. And I'm not sure that's the best practice to do that, and if everyone else does that, but a lot of times we just want to hit one button and okay, it's all done. If not, we have to sometimes approve close to 100 proposals just for that one change. And then I also hear that the VCAA and, I shouldn't say this, maybe just the chancellor, right? Where they're like, do I have to open each one of these? I mean, it's gone through the whole process. Can I just check a box that says it'll highlight all of them and then approve? So those are our cases.
Yeah, would you, because obviously that's been part of the question that's come up, and sorry, and I'll let others chime in as well too. But in addition to that, is that something you'd want to have limited to a particular role, for example? Because I could see maybe there are certain users you want to have the ability to just say, like the dean, like you're not gonna fight with the dean about that, right? But you might have something to say to one of your committees about that. Anyway, just a thought, but interested to hear ideas or scenarios like I mentioned as well.
Yeah, that conversation's come up at SNU a number of times over the years. It's kind of a tricky one because you want people to review everything, and some people will stop doing that once they have the ability to just check off the box. I think though, like you're saying, Sarah, like I think the curriculum committees could easily get away with having that one button does all of them, because they're all in the same spot in the workflow and they all are already voted on in the meeting. So I could see there being use cases, but I don't think that I'd want it broadly used across our governance processes.
I'd wondered if there would be a way that something like that could be granted with temporary permission. So for instance, if a department is changing, say that they'll take a new AP score in lieu of as a prerequisite, that could go department wide, but maybe be temporarily granted and then pulled back. That would be very beneficial in some cases.
Yeah, because that, to Mike's point, that's primarily been the concern and the back and forth that we've had internally about that, is if you give people the ability to bulk approve, how likely are they to open it at all, especially since we know a lot of times things can come down to the wire in your curriculum cycle, and there can be quite a few proposals sitting on someone's desk. And so you could definitely argue, though, that they're going to open up however many tabs that have those proposals, and they're going to do the same thing effectively anyway. So ultimately, we, of course, and you all, of course, can't control whether people actually review the changes. But I mean, another potential option is if we have the ability to bulk approve, there's some sort of message that comes up that's like, hey, this is what you're doing, and you acknowledge, and I don't know if you would want something that serious for someone to have to like do a double acknowledgement, essentially, that yes, I confirm that that's what I want to do. So interested in your thoughts on that too.
Yeah, I would say if we did have something like that, a double acknowledge step would be really good. Otherwise, I could see people accidentally clicking the, oh yeah, bulk approve, and then you have to undo all of that damage. So yeah, definitely some safeguards around that. I used to think, yeah, bulk approval was going to be great, and then I'm less and less sure, because it does take that accountability piece. I mean, I know everyone's supposed, why are we sending it to someone if all they're doing is bulk approving? I think the only place bulk approval for us at least would be useful is that final step. We've done all of our checks, and it's just the piece to get it into our catalog. But then we still have to go in and change catalog activation dates and things anyway. So we're in there anyway. So yeah, I see the more I've used Kuali, the less I think bulk approval is the way to go. But I could see sometimes there'd be use cases for sure, but probably just for admins.
I think we are at time. I think this session was for 30 minutes, but I'm sure that there's a lot more conversations to be had with this group. So again, just want to plug the community to use that as an opportunity to kind of talk through all these scenarios. And please let us know if you if there's anything that you've seen that you're interested in talking through with us, if there's anything with proposal groups that you want to evaluate, just let us know and we can talk through it. But yeah, thank you all for coming to the session today, and we'll see you in the next one.